loads of off. I had the most stressful summer in the world. I had loads of offers. The reason why I turned down the Woking one was because I didn't think it was what I deserved, having just come off the back of 2 player of the seasons. Yeah, I don't know whether to name the teams, but loads of teams, playoff teams who got in the playoffs last season and probably will this season. And just for whatever reason, the deal fell through.
So I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast by Max Kretzshmar. Max, firstly, how are you doing?
Hi, Luke. Yeah, I'm all good. Got some bad news this week. Unfortunately, on the game on Saturday, got injured, but had a scan yesterday. So looking forward to getting the results back. I don't think it's too bad. So we'll see. But yeah, all good. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. Of course, we did our predictions for those who haven't watched last Thursday. I haven't been able to count yours up yet, but we've been saying off air. You got the Halifax prediction incorrect and, of course, your own game. But we both know why, don't we, that is?
Unfortunately, yeah. But yeah, I couldn't believe you started sticking it on me, asking me for predictions. I was just like, oh God, I'm going to peeve some people off, probably Barnet fans or Woking fans, whoever. But yeah, there was some interesting results. Obviously, Woking went all the way up to Gateshead and won. So it just shows how unpredictable the league is.
Yeah, it certainly is. Of course, that injury, is it quite, I know you've been spoke about just then, but is it quite serious, or do you reckon you'll be back very soon?
I don't actually know. I'll wait for the results back, but in my experience, it doesn't feel horrendous. But just more of the problem is I've had 3 or 4 hamstring injuries in the last 18 months. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of why. So hopefully these scans kind of reveal. I had one on my back and one on my actual injury, which is on the hamstring. So it's kind of working out why they keep happening rather than the severity of it being very bad.
Sorry to cut you off during the interview, but please remember to check out our sponsors, Cards Accepted, in the link below. You get 50% off your order, no contract or monthly fees if you purchase from them.
So fingers crossed anyway.
Yeah, I know we've seen quite a few players that are out injured already. I'm just going to ask you a bit on that. Of course, Mancini, I don't know if you know him personally, who's at Hartlepool, and then Dodds as well.
I saw that today, yeah.
Yeah, and then in Young as well, I believe he's out. What sort of mental challenges as well as physical challenges does that have on players? Because we don't know that. We, as fans, sometimes, to be brutally honest, see it as, oh, it's a pain. And even to a certain extent, we have the mindset of we blame the player when it's obviously you're wanting to get back just as much as us guys are.
You couldn't have put it better any better, really. Like, every person who comes up to me when I go to the Wealdstone game or wherever it is, like, when you back, what's happened? You injured again? Like, and it's just like a barrage of like questions that you just don't know. Like, I need the scan results first, see how it is. But mentally, I'm at my like wit's end now. I had Sunday just to sulk and like be moody and just like and sometimes, you know, that can last months, Luke. If you got a serious ACL, Achilles, or touch wood, I don't ever have an injury like that. But you know, much serious injuries, my head's a bit all over the place at the minute because, as I said, like it's just little ones which keep cropping up and then kind of killing my momentum. Because I know if I play 40, 50 games a season, I'll get 10 plus goals and assists. So it's frustrating in that aspect, but 100%, it's so. Like I said, you couldn't have put it better. To not being able to do we're very lucky to do the best job in the world, right? And when you're prevented from doing that because of an injury, may not be your fault. Might have been a tackle might have been a bad tackle by someone else. The impression from the outside is, oh, he's injured, or who can we get in, or who can we sign, and mentally it can be very tough. Normally managers do sign players when you're injured, so you've got to kind of get back, catch up fitness wise, and get your place back in the team. So there's so many things that go through your mind. Obviously, we're not playing in the Premier League, so finances comes into it. Am I going to play when I come back? Am I going to be good when I play when I come back? So yeah, it's a bit of a mental, absolutely. Well, it's very, very tough to put it mildly, yeah.
Yeah, it certainly is. I know another lad that's just come to my head, a Halifax player, Festus Arthur. He was out towards the end of last season. He's not going to be back until after Christmas. Now, that's going to have a massive effect on players like that as well mentally. But like I've said, it frustrates the supporters, but it frustrates the players just as much.
No one gets injured deliberately. No one wants to be injured. Yeah. Like, no one wants to be injured, and unfortunately, when fans voice those concerns or those problems, it just makes it worse for the player because they're like, I don't want to be injured. I want to get back ASAP, and it does get tougher when the team's losing or when teams. It's both tough both ways actually. If you see your team losing, you're like, oh, I can make such a difference here. As I thought over the weekend, obviously we lost twice over bank holiday, and if the team's winning, you're like, bloody hell, am I actually important to this team or are they better off without me? So again, loads of mental challenges, really.
Yeah, I know from experience when I've seen like play when let's say we're on form, Halifax as a team, and then one significant player gets injured and you start losing a load of games. It's like, oh, why has this happened again? But like I've said, it's not the players' fault. It's just they're wanting to get back as soon as possible, and it is very difficult. But going quite far back now to the start of when you not started your career, but actually got into football. What was it? Firstly, got you into football?
God knows. Mum and dad said I had like most budding boys or footballers, I had a ball at their feet when I was younger. I was a bit obsessed when I was younger, as in like if I always wanted to be the best at something. So I did all sports when I was younger. Tennis, not saying I was amazing at tennis, but I just picked things up and I played tennis. I'd love cricket. Cricket's my second favorite sport. And when going off a tangent, there was one season when I was at school in cricket and I was awful. And then the next winter, I was like, right, mum and dad, I want to go to winter nets. So I want to practice throughout the whole of winter, come back. And I was a very, very good player when I come back. So I always that kind of mentality that if I wasn't good at something, I'd have to get better at it. But I played for my local side, Molesey Juniors, who like have a similar kit to Newcastle, black and white. That was just in the town I lived in. And a family friend, her mum was like, oh, I'm sending Charlie, my son, to Molesey Football Club for a trial. Does Max want to come? And my parents said, yeah, cool. And she took me, and then I never really looked back. I started playing with his age group. He was a year above me, but then found the next age group below. And yeah, that was about probably under sixes, under sevens, maybe. So yeah.
So when was it that you got scouted for Southampton then?
So before that, obviously Molesey's near Hampton Court. So you're looking at Surrey, you're looking at London. So I had trials at Chelsea for 6 weeks, and then 6 weeks turned into 8 weeks. And before it got too long, my dad was like, look, you either want him or you don't. So they said no. I was always in and around the Arsenal development team, which is kind of like the team, the fake team, basically, the team who want to try and take the places of like the age group they've got. That was tough. I was going on the tube to Walthamstow twice a week with mum and dad or whoever wasn't working. And then that didn't happen. So I went back to Molesey, and then we played a tournament in Camberley. So that's in Hampshire, which is a bit further where we'd normally play. And we won that tournament. I scored 2 in the final. Obviously, I found Sunday League quite easy. I was normally player of the tournament or like one of the better players. So because it was in Camberley in a different area, there was a Southampton scout there. He came up to my dad after the tournament, gave me his card, and went on trial. And it was a bit of I said it on my channel when I first made my channel. It was a bit of like an X Factor or like Britain's Got Talent. There was like 50 people they've scouted, all same age. You all go into little training or whatever, and then matches. And then 2 of us got to the end and trained with the actual team. We're still not signed yet either. So then we train with the team, 2 from Whittle all the way down to 50. And as I said, 50 had been scouted. So these aren't 50 like numpties or useless players. They're all pretty decent. And then, 2 of us trained with the team and both of us got signed. And I was there until under 15s.
So what was that experience like at Southampton then? Because at the time, I believe it is still quite a well-known academy and still quite high up in the pyramid for being one of the best academies. But especially back then, some of the players that got produced, what was it like? Because I sort of get the idea that being scouted for a side like Southampton was probably actually better than Chelsea and Arsenal at the time.
100%, because there was you could see the pathway to the first team. So when I got there, Theo Walcott was 16. So he was like the pin-up boy, and he was like breaking into the first team, playing up front or on the wing. And obviously he got signed up by Arsenal quickly. Players followed him. Lallana, we watched in the under-18s. He was phenomenal. But again, not one that was like incredible. He was more of a grower and kind of like come late. Gareth Bale, of course. Oxlade-Chamberlain was a year above me. He dropped down into my age group because he was quite small, very stocky but very small. And then he seemed to have a growth spurt kind of when I left. And then obviously the rest is history. Year below me, Luke Shaw, Callum Chambers, Ward Prowse. Luke Shaw's from the same Sunday League team as me, Molesey Juniors. So we used to share lifts as families. His mum or dad would take me on a Tuesday or Thursday and vice versa. And their team was phenomenal. Like my age group used to play their age group and we used to get hammered by them like comfortably because they were just exceptional. And as I said, there was a pathway to the first team. The facilities were amazing. At the time, your Chelseas and your Arsenals were spending big money on huge like athletes and big lads who they could turn into footballers. But Southampton were always looking at the technical side, the psychological intelligence side, and they've made, I know there's that kind of where would Southampton be with this 11 through their recruitment and their youth team, like Virgil van Dijk and all these guys who they've signed, Mane, but all the players they produced, Walcott, as I said, Bale, Ward-Prowse have just gone to West Ham. So as you said, it was probably, the facilities are incredible as well. The pitches were amazing. Yeah. So in recent years, Chelsea and your Barcelonas and things like that, they've spent a lot of money on it and obviously have incredible players, Man City as well. But at the time, you're right, like Southampton was the top of the top.
So was there anyone like there, any coaches that you had a close relationship with? Because I kind of get the impression from what I've heard from yourself on your channel that at Chelsea and Arsenal, it were kind of like this kind of didn't give you a chance because of your height, where Southampton, like you've said, it was more, there's certainly a player in there and we know as he's going to get older, he's going to bulk up and he's going to become a quality footballer.
Well, the thing is, I still didn't make it at Southampton, so I left before puberty or before I had a growth spurt. So it was more the coaches there. I mean, Mark Chamberlain, Alex's dad was a coach. I can't really remember too many of the others. Obviously, I think when you're a teenager, you're more impressionable, or you talk to your coaches more. At that age, you kind of go in for your interviews like 2 or 3 times a season, have your autumn term, winter term update with the coaches with your parents. So. And as we know, parents can be quite pushy and they're kind of the ones that dominate that kind of interview. My dad and mum were different. They wanted me to ask questions, me to like kind of take control of my career. But it was only until when I went to Wycombe at under 15s where Richard Dobson, who's the assistant manager at QPR now, was the person who had the biggest influence on my career because, as you said, I was still small, still playing in kits that were too big for me. And he said, "We'll wait for you. We will wait for you." And then, as in, I'll have my growth spurt, we'll wait for you. You're intelligent, technically good enough. And then when I got my scholarship at 16, my mum was in a meeting and my Dobbo was like, at Christmas, gave me my scholarship early, my apprenticeship. So I'm going to be full-time next season. And my mum started crying because she was like, "I know you said you'd wait for me. You said you'd wait for him." So yeah, it was nice. He followed through with his promises, which was, Luke's very quite rare in football.
Yeah, it certainly is. But just going back to that time at Southampton, so of course, when you were finally let go by them, did that hit you hard at first?
Tough, real tough. And something I've had on that video on my channel about resilience. Hard, really hard. Like, remember getting home, obviously driving back crying, next day, got home crying, coming back from school crying. And then my dad kind of took control of the situation. He was like, "Right, you can call it quits now. What do you want to do?" He's pushy, as in he was pushy. Max, you got to be the best you can be. I don't think you're going to bed too late, or you should be doing this and that. He'd always be pushy, but leave ultimately the decision to me. So at school, I was getting teased. Well, one boy was teasing me saying, you got released from Southampton, blah 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 blah. And I think I flipping decked him or I smashed him in trade, smashed him at school or something, smashed him with a tackle at break time or something. And then so it was really tough, Luke. But I never really wavered from knowing that I wanted to be a footballer or a professional footballer. So it was right. Where do we go from here, and how do we move forward?
Do you feel like at the time though, it was kind of a gamble, maybe that because, of course, when you've just been released from Southampton, of course, you spoke about resilience there, which is crucial. But I'm sure, like, especially nowadays, there's always a thought of what am I going to do if I don't make it as a footballer?
Well, that's where my mum was always like, you've got to have a backup plan. So she was honestly always on at me for my studies and my academic. I'm that annoying guy who's good at school, was good at sport as well, but I didn't really revise for exams. And when I needed to, I would, and I'd get good results. So she was always on at me about always having a backup plan. But I used to say to teachers that we used to do what's it called when you're kind of planning, like, yeah, you'd get people coming into school. What's it called?
Oh, it's like careers advice.
Yeah, careers day or careers advice. And I'd always get a piece of paper, like, what are you good at? What are your strengths? And then you type it in, and then it directs you into maybe a field that your answers kind of suggest. I used to just not put anything. Like, I was like, I'm going to be a footballer. And I think that did come at 16 when I knew I was going to get a scholarship at Wycombe, because they told me at Christmas time. So yeah, but always enjoy. I'm good at, like, even now, I was always good at English, writing, reading, kind of why I want to explore this media side of football. Yeah, and it's followed me throughout the whole thing. I've done my UEFA B license, and I've done a degree in sports journalism and media. So yeah, I've always had, I think that's my mum's kind of driving of me, always have a backup plan, something to fall back on. Obviously, when I finished football, but even before, if I failed at football when I was 18 or 21, I always had something to fall back on.
Yeah, because that's something big as well, especially at non-league level. Maybe not in the Premier League and Championship, but after football, at non-league level, it's not millionaires, is it? They're genuine, normal people that are just doing a job throughout their career. But instead of that, when you turn to 35, 36, which is the average age of retirement from football, you kind of have the issue of, well, what am I going to do now? I need to find something. What's your thoughts on that?
God, you're killing me with these questions. That honestly is one of the biggest, not fears, but I know I'm going to struggle with it. I know, because I love the dressing room. Like, I've been doing this since I was like 10 years old, but being in a proper professional environment since I was 16. So I'm coming up to nearly 14 years of doing it now. I am prepared, as in, like, I've done my badges. I can do the next UEFA A coaching badge. Coaching, you're in a job for 18 months and getting sacked on average, probably low pay, reasonably low pay in the level we support and play in. High stress, low pay. Next best thing, media stuff. I'd love this channel, your channel, my channel, to grow bigger and become a commentator or a pundit or someone on Talk Sport or something like that. But again, not great pay, but you're doing something you love. So if I can continue something to do a job which I love after football, I think I've won either way.
Yeah, because that's something that I think, another thing that a lot of supporters and just genuine football fans, we look at players and we always, even at national league level, we just ultimately have that opinion, that they're rich, they're millionaires, they're well known. But the case is the fact that you're basically you're training like Premier League footballers, in a fact where you're in that environment where, I don't know, but like drinking, etc. You can't just party every single weekend.
No.
Your weekends get taken up as well. Is that something that you think players struggle with as well? Is the fact that on a weekend, it's not like, in your 20s, it's that prime age for when you're partying and stuff, and instead you're having to be quite sensible about that.
I think it's tougher when you're 16, 17. Obviously, when all the boys and girls are going to school and we discover the other sex, or we discover whoever we fancy in that. That was not big for me, because I had a game on a Saturday. I could never go out on a Friday. And even till now, like, I've never drunk. I can't play with a hangover. I've never, ever even tried it, because one, I suffer from hangovers terribly and I'm knackered and like I can hardly get out of bed, and it would affect my performance terribly. But the kind of social stuff never really affected me. Do I look back on now and go, God, I wish I'd gone to a few more parties? Not maybe, but not really, because I got to where I wanted to in the end. I wish I'd gone a bit further, but still playing 80, 90 odd games in League Two professional football and playing in the National League, which is basically a professional league now. I've lived the dream, but I think that challenge comes a bit earlier than you think, maybe the age you are now.
Yeah. Of course, going back to Wycombe then, how did that come about in the first place, getting signed there? I know you've mentioned you had quite a close relationship with who was the now assistant manager. How did that come about then? Firstly, just your whole experience at Wycombe.
Yeah, so got released from Southampton, which was a shock because all the stuff I'd had back was Max is doing well. We know he's small, but blah 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 blah. And then obviously got released out of a little bit of a surprise. Wasn't a huge surprise, but it was like, oh right, what about all this you said? So my dad kind of went in and was like, hang on a minute, like you've given us all this feedback, positive feedback. At least you can do is put us in touch with some clubs. So they put me in touch with Brentford, Wycombe, went and trained once each with them and played a game with Wycombe. So I played a training session and a game. Went to the Brentford one. Obviously, they're doing incredibly now, but actually, not too many players have come through. I just preferred Wycombe. The setup was incredible. Paul Lambert was the manager, Gary Carter, the academy director, and then Martin Quay is the coach at my level. And then Dobbo was, I think, in charge of the whole youth team. So it was pouring with rain when I went there, played a match. I think it might have been through maybe an African touring team. So huge players, really physical. And it was pouring with rain. Didn't think I did well. And then I left and Gary Carter, the director, was like, up to he was brilliant today, wasn't he? He was brilliant. And my dad was like, oh, was he? Anyway, so I signed there quickly. And yeah, that was ended under 14. So beginning under 15s, did a year there. And then obviously I said at Christmas time, under 16s, they said I was going to get a scholarship, not pro. And yeah, still small, still skinny. In my first year scholar, I broke my ankle. No, it was second year. So in my first year scholar, I kind of scored a hat trick against Brentford on my first start for the youth team. So I was like, all right, here we go. And then I got benched the next game because Kadeem Harris, who was playing with the first team, was coming back from injury, and Gary Wooddock, the manager, wanted him to get up to fitness. So I've just scored a hat trick, and then I got dropped the next game, and Dobbo was like, this is not because of you, obviously, blah, 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 blah. And then, throughout my second year, I said I broke my ankle. I was a youth team captain. So was really vocal as I am now, leadership, leading, telling people what to do, had a good understanding of the game, but then broke my ankle against Luton away. Ball went up to their striker. He chested it down. I've turned and defended from the front in midfield, and he's just come straight over the top with his studs right over my shin pad. Sitting there. Knew I was struggling. Walked up, tried to play on, and I just sat down and walked off the pitch. Had to wear the boot. I took the boot off because in my head, if I wear the boot, that means it's a bad injury. Got home, hour home, my ankle was honestly, Luke, it was like the size of a size 3 football. It was ridiculous. And I started crying again. Had a scan, broken tibia, so broken my leg just on the ankle joint. And again, I was just like, I can't make this up. And then that was again, talking about resilience, that was tough. I was 3 or 4 months out, coming back in February and March. I didn't realize at the time I was doing my rehab with the youth team physio and the first team physio. So looking back on it now, that was a bit of a clue that they were going to take me. If I could show that I'm going to recover, because the first team physio was helping me, they kind of had a view to keep me on beyond that. Come back, did well, and then went into Gary Wooddock's office in the springtime, and he was like, "Yeah, we're going to offer you a pro." So, incredible.
How long do you have to wait then for that first start?
First professional start?
Yeah, no, maybe not start, but appearance where you were brought on.
Mate, so that season finished. My first year pro, I didn't make a single appearance. Nothing, not even a bench appearance, not even a start, nothing. So I was playing resi football, had a loan pop up either to Welling or Woking, but it didn't materialise. And didn't play a single minute. Manager got changed. Gareth Ainsworth became player manager and then manager. But I was always really good in training, always really good. Again, the physical stuff was coming in. They just said you're not ready for men's football, especially at League 2 level. And then Ainsworth offered me a second year pro and said, look, you got to go into the gym over the summer. And then throughout the whole summer, I was in the gym. And then I made my debut the first game of the season. That season.
That's brilliant.
Second year pro.
Yeah, spending the whole summer in the gym, and it must have had just a major impact on you.
I had the meeting on the Saturday probably, and I was in the gym on the Monday. So we've got 8 weeks off in the summer.
Yeah.
Go Napa, wherever. I didn't. I literally stayed at home, was in the gym, signed up to my mum's gym, the Pavilion near Hampton Court in Molesey, and I just, not saying I got massive because I didn't. I've never been massive, but it obviously made a difference because I come back very, very fit, as well as a little bit stronger, and come on against Morecambe at home in like the 87th minute, and then I was away.
Was it that game when you actually scored your first goal against Morecambe?
Nah, so Hartlepool it was. Hartlepool away. We're getting to maybe September, October now. Still haven't started. I don't think I've started. And then, we played Hartlepool away. He brought me on at half time and I scored 2 goals. We won 2-1. And again, just gave me the platform to go take more, scored a penalty, which was interesting in itself because I was 19 at the time. One of our boys, Chesterfield at home, won a penalty. And he kind of looked at me like, do you want it? And I was like, well, if you're asking me, do I want it? You maybe do want it, but like you shouldn't be asking. So I was like, yeah, give me the ball. And at 19, I think the manager, Ainsworth, said afterwards, he was like, took a lot of balls to do that because, not many 19-year-olds would do that in that kind of environment. And then I got offered quickly a 2.5-year pro contract because I'd scored maybe 4 or 5 goals before Christmas. And there were a few teams must have been sniffing around and signed a 2.5-year deal.
The feeling you must have got from those games though, where the game against Hartlepool when you scored 2 goals, the penalty that you scored against Chesterfield, is that a feeling that you can't even really describe because it's just so good? You know, I can imagine. I play at Sunday League level, and you score a goal on a Sunday, and it's like the match winner, and you feel on top of the earth. But scoring for a side like Wycombe in front of 5,000-6,000, might have even been more. It must have been amazing.
It was so good. And all the goals I scored that year led to a win. So I scored 2 against Hartlepool. We won 2-1. I scored a really long-range shot against Exeter. We won 1-0. I scored against Chesterfield. We won 1-0. Dagenham, we won 2-0. So they were all like match-winning goals as well. And that was good. But I remember the Hartlepool goals especially because that's the shirt I scored in. I still got it. My first 2 professional goals, and I remember just ringing, getting back to the coach outside the ground, having pizza or whatever, and ringing my dad, and he was like, "Fucking hell, Max, you've just scored your first professional goal." Sorry to swear, and I was like, "Yeah, I know." And Mum was just screaming down the phone, but and I remember some of the players walking past, going, "What? You never scored a goal before? Come on, mate, are you going to ring Mum every time or something like that?" So, like as you said, scoring any sort of goal, even now, like it's the best feeling.
Of course, then at Wycombe, you spent a long period of time there, had a very good season there, which was your breakthrough season, I believe. But in 2016, you left and joined Woking. How did that come about? And was that a little bit disappointing because you'd done so well at Wycombe and then to drop down into non-league? Because I know people who obviously played at higher level might have that opinion that, non-league, it's not somewhere I really want to be.
That's what I thought at the time. In fairness to Wycombe, I had a very good first year. Second year, I was injured and had a virus for like 3 months, which was crazy. And then in my last year, the squad had got really strong, as in we'd lost at Wembley in the playoff final against Southend in that middle year. And then the next year, we didn't actually get into the playoffs, but we had a much stronger squad. So I was getting 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, starting a couple of games, then getting taken out. Like I never had like a run in the team. And it got to a point where Dobber and the manager were like, you need to go play games yourself. So we could keep you for another season and just use you as like kind of squad rotation, but it won't be good for your career. So like you said, I wasn't expecting to go anywhere but down from there. But I was thinking this will be like relatively easy. I'll have a good season here and then I'll shoot back up the league. But obviously, as you know, the National League was very strong. So I went to Woking, another frustrating season. I done my medial ligament in my knee. And broke my collarbone on BT Sport. So like 2
it's not had the best of luck.
Freaky injuries. Like this one was a freaky injury. My AC joint separated my AC joint, which is the collarbone joint. And just fell on it in a game. Like I've fallen it a million times since, never done it again. So injuries have held me back, unlucky ones at some point. But Yeah, it was a bit of a frustrating season, but managed to score a few goals and keep Woking up on the last day of the season against Dagenham.
So, was it the following season when you went to Hampton and Richmond in the
Yeah.
National League South? What was that like? Because I believe Hampton and Richmond would have been part-time. Woking actually might have been.
Yeah, they're both part-time.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this was the first season I played 50 games, Luke. Like, and I loved it. Like, I played 50 games, injury-free, like confidence. If I had a bad week, I didn't have too many bad weeks, but if I had a 6 out of 10, I knew I was going to play next game. I was playing number 10 in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, sometimes on the right, where I wasn't really as effective. But what killed me, I kept playing on the right and I kept scoring. So I've never been really someone to go past players and get shots and crosses in the box. I normally just touch, whip it. But I kept scoring at right wing, so I kept playing there. And yeah, just enjoyed it. The dressing room we had was incredible. Everyone very humble, very not there. We're all getting paid relatively small amounts of money. So we was there to try and do our best and kick on probably. And yeah, with a really small budget, we got to the playoff final. Lost against Braintree at home. We should have won. I got concussion again.
Didn't you score in that game?
Scored in the game, but it went to penalties and I got concussed in extra time. So I would have taken a penalty, obviously. And we lost on pens, unfortunately. But yeah, just a great season. I think I got including county cups and FA trophies and FA Cup, I got 24 goals or something like that. So 16 in the league or 14 in the league and 8 in cup competitions. So yeah, it was a really enjoyable season.
And of course, the following season, it was actually when you went back to working, I believe. Just before I come on to that, when you go into part-time then, so you've gone from full-time at Wycombe to part-time, did you have to get a job on the side maybe because it was part-time? What was that like?
I had 1 month of sitting on my ass on the sofa, I'm so bored. What do I do? I felt like a bit of a loser. I'm just I need something to do. So I was living at home at the time. And I took up a coaching role at a company where they were called Pro Direct Soccer at the time, but they're called Learn, Play and Achieve LPA Academy now. Just work in Surrey, and they have the man who runs it, Paul. He just has a company there, and I was doing school sessions, PE sessions, after school football sessions. So that was keeping me busy. Wasn't getting paid a lot at all, maybe 12, 15 quid an hour or something, and having to drive all over Surrey to these sessions, but kind of more just keep my brain ticking and a nice bit of extra money at the end of the month. But yeah, that was kind of the most trickiest transition.
So of course you did your coaching badges. What point was it when you got that passion to think, you know what, I want to start coaching as well as being a footballer?
I think, as I alluded to earlier, I was always a captain figure. I've not been a captain actually that much in my career. I've normally kind of, not that it's ever been announced, but been a vice captain or, a captain alongside the captain. I've always just coached on the pitch as well when I'm playing. And I feel like when I did go into the schools, eventually it became a little bit not many of them want to be coached. Sometimes their parents have got to get back from work at 5. So they're just there until mum and dad can pick them up. But then when I was at Woking, I was doing part-time working with their academy. So the 23s, 18s and 19s. It wasn't as simple as it was when I was younger. It was just an under-18s team. But at this level, they had 4 teams, 4 different leagues. And I loved it. I'm now coaching 18, 19-year-olds who actually want to be in the position I am. Yeah. So I'm a Woking player coaching in the academy and they're looking at me let me ask him some questions or let me look up to him and try and learn off him. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Did my B license straight away, having kind of discovered that. And I've just, as I said, always coached on the pitch, but kind of just really enjoyed seeing improvement from players, but players who want to get better rather than just kind of babysitting.
Yeah, the ones who just go to the football just for piss about, basically.
Exactly,
yeah. When you returned to Woking, what was that initially like then? Because you'd had the previous spell, it wasn't the best of spells because of injuries. Were you going back under a new manager?
Yeah, so Alan Dowson was the manager at Hampton. He was on the phone straight away. I'm going to Woking and I want you to come with me. It was actually really difficult because, like I said, it was the most enjoyable season of my life. I love the club. My family still go to Hampton and Richmond games now. And I gave the incoming manager, Gary McCann, a chance. I trained with Hampton as well as Woking. but just the offer was a bit more at Woking financially, and also it wasn't really to do with that. I thought Woking were going to win the league. We didn't. We come second. We went up via the playoffs, but I thought we were going to get promoted straight back, and I would have found that difficult if I'd stayed at Hampton and watched Woking go up, and I was still in the same league. So I kind of did it for football reasons, really.
So, of course, when you went to Woking, you got promoted with Woking. There was other players there as well. Jake Hyde, a big name who's at Woking.
Yeah.
Of course, when you go there, you gain that promotion. You went into the National League, and if I remember rightly, that first season, for the first half or so, you were very, very good. You had Jake Hyde scoring a lot of goals. I think you were getting a lot of goal contributions. What were that like?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, we did it quite a lot when we were part-time at Woking. We went off to a flyer straight away. Don't know why. Maybe the Saturday, Tuesdays just caught up with us and we kind of started just dipping down the league. I think that was the first COVID year where it was completely stopped. So we were actually in with a chance of playoffs. Then they went points per game and we lost our last game 3-1 to Barnet at home. And we went below the threshold, so we couldn't get into the playoffs. But we had a very good season. When I got moved back into the number 10, I was at my best. I was sometimes doing a job on the wing, left or right. Right, I hated, because if I was playing on the left, I could kind of come in and get into that number 10 position anyway and get shots off my right foot. When I was on the right, I never played well. Fans didn't really rate me at Woking because I was playing there. And then, as soon as I got moved into that position, number 10, and then the next season I was in the number 10, everyone's kind of took a different kind of stance and opinion on me.
I know they were that tough season, weren't they, at Woking, but you actually did very well. But overall, the side, I think, slightly underperformed. I think, was it the COVID? I think it was the COVID season, when fans weren't allowed to go to games, I believe. But you did very well that season, or was it the following season, actually?
I did decent. I got double figures in that COVID season and then the season following, we went full-time, and that's the one you're talking about where, again, we started off very, very well, had a great squad. Like, I look at the squad now, you think we had Effiong up front, we had Kabamba turn up late up front. You're talking 40 goals in last season between them, plus in the league. We had Tavon Campbell, your mate, who went to Rochdale. So then we had Ince in midfield, who's still one of the best midfielders in the league right now. Dowse had got a team there. He'd got it. He just kind of lost the dressing room a little bit. And I look back on that one, the biggest regret. I got 13, 14 goals that season, got player of the season, double fans player and players player. But when that team broke up the next season and all the individuals went to their teams, like your Kabambas, like your Ini Effiongs, we actually realised how good the unit was, and we should have probably got playoffs that season, where really we struggled in mid to lower league.
So was it the following season when you actually moved to Wealdstone then? So you moved from Woking. So when you was at Woking, were you there when they went into that full-time model? So you changed?
Yeah, that was the season I left. So I did a whole year full-time, and I'm no surprises, it benefited my results as well. I was fitter. Injuries weren't too much of an issue. And obviously Darren Sarll come in at the end of the season, and I just loved the way he was pressing. His teams just pressed the life out of players, and that suited me because I was just all energy. I'm not your archetypal number 10 who's like really tricky, like brilliant on the ball. Like, I just like to affect games. I like to press teams, win the ball back, goals, assists. That's kind of what I base it all around. So I'm a hard-working number 10, and I just didn't. We for whatever reasons that will stay private, I didn't sign at Woking, and went to Wealdstone. And again, as you're probably going to talk about now, it's just a completely different style of play, and one which is just thoroughly enjoyable to play in.
I remember when you did actually move to Wealdstone, I was like stunned because I was thinking that is, one hell of a signing, because you did very well at work in the previous season. Was Wealdstone at the time, was that like the only offer that you had on the table, or were there like a number of offers? What was it that kind of attracted you there?
There was loads of offers. I had the most stressful summer in the world. I had loads of offers. The reason why I turned down the Woking one was because I didn't think it was what I deserved, having just come off the back of 2 player of the seasons. Yeah, I don't know whether to name the teams, but loads of teams, playoff teams who got in the playoffs last season and probably will this season. And just for whatever reason, the deal fell through. I said I was going to go to this team, went to sign with that team, and the manager kind of screwed me over and said, no, we've signed someone else. So then I went back to this team and they were like, well, we've spent our budget now. We can offer you X minus £300 less a week. And I was like, well, I can't do that. And then some managers just, I was on holiday and someone was like, we'll email you an offer to sign today. I was like, oh, brilliant. I've gone to Italy just to get away from all the stress. And now I've got an offer. Rang the manager back, just didn't reply, didn't even bother returning his call. So I ended up training with Dartford, with Douse, just as a friend, just keep me fit. And then Wealdstone come in. Stuart had been after me for 2-3 years. And yeah, they offered me a good deal. And like I said, it was kind of at the stage where I was. I didn't want to wait any longer because 2-3 weeks of pre-season had already gone.
So, of course, you made that move to Wealdstone under Stuart Maynard. A side that I think everyone kind of wrote off that season and thought they're going to go down. Them even if you looked at the additions that they made, everyone just saw them as their park time. They've been overperforming. It's their time now to drop out the division. But in fact, you actually improved that season and had, I think, the best finish that Wealdstone had in something like 70 odd years. It was something like that anyway. It might have even been in their entire history. What was that like? Because I get the impression from that would have been a very close group that was overperforming and kind of playing out the skin, but having quite a close group like that to a manager and a good assistant, it must have been brilliant for you.
Again, I think everyone in the National League, if you're at Wealdstone, you know that you're there either because you're young and you want to perform, you want to kick on, or two, like you fit the mold of what they want perfectly. You're not there for the money because let's be honest, it's not the high. It's definitely not the highest paid club in the league by a long shot. And that's what you said brings the change room together. There's no egos. Everyone's there for a reason, and you all just work your nuts off. And when the framework around you is put in place by the managing and coaching staff, it's easy to perform. It's very easy, and even we perform even well above the sums of our parts, really.
Yeah, I know that season though. Of course, you had a few injury problems yourself, but you were playing very well, and then I think something just changed, didn't it? And then the last 10 or so games, the actual position that you finished, it felt a bit unfair on you guys because the majority of the season you were in the
top half,
yeah, just outside.
Every time we got close to the playoffs, maybe 2 or 3 points, we'd lose like 2 games back to back. So like we never had it within our grasp. I think we're top at like 5 games in, but if we're talking like bigger chunks, we were never like in it. Like we were always chasing, and then whenever we got close, we got a sniff of it. We just didn't perform, and it was very, very frustrating. A lot of the games I missed, and I'm not very arrogant. Well, I'm not arrogant at all, but a lot of the games I wasn't involved in, our form like dipped off. Not because I was scoring or assisting. I was assisting a lot and scoring not many, but it's kind of what I bring throughout. Like as I said, we're a young team. My leadership does help a lot. My communication and just that willingness to win every game's kind of priceless, but very frustrating. I mean, our last 8 games, we lost like 6 or 5 games, and our last game was against Southend, who could have gone up on that day if results had gone their way. We went 1-0 up against them, and I checked my flash score because I wasn't playing, and we were 3 points behind them. Yeah. And I was like, so these lot can go up today, and because we're 1-0 up right now, we're 3 points behind them, which shows you we've actually mucked up a lot here because we were still close, and we'd have a terrible end to the season.
Yeah, I know there's in that Wealdstone side, there was a lot of young players. I know that's something you've mentioned throughout this interview, that you have that ambition to be a captain and a leader on the field. It feels like at Wealdstone, that's kind of what they're wanting to do. They've got a young squad with players that might have fallen out of the EFL or have come up the lower league, and they kind of come to this side. They've clearly got a lot of potential. And then there's the likes of you, Cook, the experienced players who are there to kind of mentor them as well and fill in those gaps in the side where you need an experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as I said, the kind of model of the club is to kind of sign those young players, get them on loan, and then give them an opportunity to like kick on. Obviously, the older ones, we're here to help that, but of course, we want to be. I want to be involved. I've got an ambition to go play at Wembley one more time. I didn't get on when I was on the bench for Wycombe in the playoff final. I still want to win things. I've only got one promotion to my name. I've got no relegation, so I've got no plans of doing that. So yeah, I'm not there to get a move. Listen, I want to play at the highest level possible, but I just kind of want to keep fulfilling my goals of scoring goals and getting assists. But I do have an ambition of getting promoted one more time or winning a trophy.
So I'm guessing that would have to be with Wealdstone to a certain extent. I get that impression that's something that you want to do. Is that something that you feel at Wealdstone at the moment? They've kind of got those ambitions that we want to get into the Football League one day.
I don't think so. No, only say that because every club's ambitious, but we need a new lease on the ground. We need some investment into one, the stadium, two, just simple things like the pit, the training pitches. We train on 3G at a college. We don't have our own ground. We don't have a great gym set up. We use the college gym stuff. So if you compare to like your Wrexhams, your Notts Counties, obviously last season, your Chesterfields this season, and I know Bromley have really redesigned their stadium and their gym and stuff like that. Like we're really far behind. And the fact that this club is playing at this level and competing really well in it is an achievement in itself. Listen, of course, I want to get promoted, but like those aren't the goals for this club from the outside. That's all I'll say, because on the outside, we're bottom two for like money that we spend, money that we put in. So realistically, we should get relegated every season, but we want to just stay in the division and then go from there, really.
So I think it's fair to say you come into that prime of your career now. What is that last ambition for you? What is it, that ambition that's something in your career that you're just hoping that you can achieve one day?
Yeah, definitely the Wembley thing, because when we played Southend at Wycombe, we lost on penalties. I was nearly going to be a League One player. They scored in the 120th minute to equalise in extra time and then won on penalties. And I didn't get on. And I would have liked to have taken a penalty, obviously, even though I was very young. Again, as we said earlier, I want to take a penalty. So yeah, definitely, as I said, one more promotion, whether that's in whatever league, but I definitely want to play at Wembley because I haven't done.
Yeah, you'll have to come to Halifax. We seem to like it at Wembley with the FA Trophy, and that's exactly what we're missing in the midfield at the moment. But no, on a serious note then, another question there for you. So since you've come into this National League, you think of all the players that you've probably played against. How would you describe this league as a whole then?
I'd say it's
you can swear, by the way.
No, it's League 3, because I reckon, well, the two that went up last year will go, I suggest, in the playoffs. I know Notts County have really picked up. Wrexham haven't yet. They should do. And it's deadline day today, so I'm sure they'll be spending a bit of money. Chesterfield aren't a non-league team, really. I think it's a very, very good division. I think there's more money in the top half of this division than there is at the bottom half of League 2. What players are earning, what clubs are spending. So I think it's League 3, and we need, in my opinion, to do 3 up, 3 down, because I think a lot of League 2 teams are protected by that position. You've literally got to be the third worst team in the league and you'll be all right next season. So and every team that kind of goes up, I know Hartlepool have been bouncing around a bit at the minute, but most of the teams that go up don't really come back down for another 5-6 years. And I don't expect Notts County or Wrexham to come back down anytime soon.
No, I don't think they will. And I think the sides that obviously got those ambitions to get in the Football League themselves this season will also feel that when they get up there, they won't be coming back down anytime soon. But you've obviously played in League 2 as well as the National League. What would you say the differences are? Because there clearly has to be some differences. Maybe not that it's a stronger league, but maybe that this league might be more physical, where the league above is more technical. What's the differences between the two divisions as a player?
Obviously, I played in not a long time ago, but probably League Two's changed a bit, and this level has definitely got stronger. The National League, I think, the gap between the National League and the National League South is as big as there's ever been. Like, I know the North is pretty strong. You get physical teams up there, but from where I'm from, the South, it's gone up. The National League's way up here. I think League Two, I actually think it's a bit more direct. I think there's a little bit more football played in this league actually, and that just because you're playing in front of bigger crowds, maybe managers are under pressure. They've got to protect their jobs, and they've got to maybe play a safer style of football. But yeah, I can't say for sure, but I know I've been at many clubs where you get players on loan from League Two or League One, young players, and they just can't hack it, or they go back to their parent club quite quickly. So yeah, I think this Conference South to Conference is as big as it's ever been, but League Two to National League is as small as it's ever been, I would say, personally.
Is there any club in this division? This is a difficult question now. Is there any club in this division that you take a dislike to?
Is there any? Oh, you're killing me here, Luke.
There must be one club.
I used to hate. Obviously, I used to hate losing to Aldershot because we used to play them around Christmas time all the time because we'd double up, and we'd have a terrible record. Like, we'd always finish above them in the league, but flipping lose or draw over Christmas. And the last one we lost when I was at Woking, we lost 3-1, 3-2. I scored 2, and I was literally just ran everywhere, and I was just devastated at the end of the game. And obviously the fans sometimes run on the pitch. There's fireworks, there's smoke and that. They didn't give me the best of receptions when I was walking off injured last week either. So probably Aldershot, but I don't really have a bad. I used to be really chirpy on the pitch and wind players up and wind fans up. And then I remember one game against Portsmouth, I got absolutely filled in on my ankle. I was like, I'm not going to chat any shit anymore on the pitch. I'm just going to be pretty nice and so yeah. Not really. Obviously, the Barnet games at Wealdstone are very feisty and will be this season as well. So I'm looking forward to them. But nah, Luke, I'm a nice guy. I don't really have too many teams that I hate. I'm a Chelsea fan, so I tell you, Arsenal fans do my head in. Arsenal fans do my head in. No, because
they never win out though, do they? So
nah, they're all right. They never win anything. Neither do Arsenal, to be fair. But a lot of my friends are from London and they are Chelsea fans and they hate Tottenham. But I think because they live in London and they see more Tottenham fans. Where I live in Surrey, there's not many Tottenham fans, so I've never really grew up hating them. I didn't like United when I was younger because they was winning everything with Fergie and Fergie time, and I thought referees were favouring them and that. But yeah, Arsenal fan. I just love my favourite thing to do is watch AFTV after an Arsenal loss on the toilet. That's my favourite thing on a Monday morning. On a Monday morning. Just stick that on my phone and just laugh at them. So, but yeah, they're doing too well at the minute, so there's not many laughs to have.
Yeah, they're funny, aren't they? AFTV. I've seen the odd thing on there. I think they just do that though for likes and views, the way that they go on there.
Yeah, it's clickbaity. Yeah.
Yeah, but when we mentioned those derbies, and that's something in your career, is that something that as a player you always look forward to? Because at this level, of course, you're going to get certain games where maybe Wealdstone or even when you was at Woking where it might feel a bit dead and maybe that, you're feeling like, oh, there isn't much of a support base here. But when you have derbies like that, it shows that there's a passion about this club. And what was it like when you were playing in that Aldershot versus Woking derby? Because I've seen vlogs of that game. I've never been. It's one that I'd like to go to, but it's always on Boxing Day and it seems proper fierce.
No, it is. And I think we used to get maybe between 1,800 and 2,500 at Woking. That game, you're getting 4,000 or 5,000, easy, straight away. Tickets sold out. But like I said, I didn't have a great record. Personally, I was scoring goals. My record against Aldershot is very good, but results-wise, it was not great. We won there in COVID in the FA Cup. We got drawn against each other. I come on and scored the winner. We won 1-0. But apart from that, I had pretty poor experiences of them. But in those games where the crowd's obviously feisty and that, and it's always end to end. It's always, like I said, it was always good games between us and them. It kind of gave me that extra motivation to perform and to get in the right places to score. Because you would know, it takes one goal in a big derby game, in a promotion run or anything, and you're in the folklore forever. Or So I was always like, even if I was having an average game, I was like, just keep getting into the box, because if one ball does drop, you back yourself to finish it, and you're going to be like remembered for a long time.
Yeah. As a player, do you thrive off that, where you score a goal and you get the opportunity to like run into the crowd or celebrate with the supporters at this level? It must be a good feeling, that.
A knee slide and into the crowd are two of the best things. A knee
Yeah.
slide when it's wet, but just a last minute goal, full stop. A last minute winner, obviously last minute equaliser is fantastic, and you still go mad with that, especially if it's away from home. But a last minute winner in a derby game, I can't think of anything better, really.
So last season, then, we had the likes of Wrexham and Notts County in this division. Firstly, Wrexham, then, they had that takeover. You're playing against them. There must be some added motivation for you when you're playing a side like Wrexham. Maybe you want to impress because there's cameras on you as well. But also the fact that you're playing against the likes of Paul Mullins, who were on 4-5 grand a week. Ollie Palmer's. I don't believe you played against Ben Foster because he came later, and I think Wealdstone had played against them twice by that point. But what were those games like, when you're going away, but also playing at home against a side like Wrexham since the takeover?
We drew with Wrexham 0-0 at home, and obviously we kept the ball off them for 90 minutes, and Mullin got taken off after an hour just because they had one big chance of Ollie Palmer, great save from Housey. But apart from that, it was kind of a comfortable 0-0. We went away from home, and this sticks with me because I got sent off against them away from home, but we were really in the game at 1-1 and 2-1. We were 2-1 down, and then I got sent off, and the game kind of got changed. But the crowd there was pretty sick. It was like 11,000. It was on that run where they just kept winning, and they were like going for the league title. So the place was bouncing, to be fair. But of course, you have that extra motivation because there is a weird psychotic feeling about ruining someone's party or ruining their run and being the team. Because we actually did it the year before at Woking. They came to us.
That was televised, wasn't it? Because
it was on BT. Yeah. Who were they going for the title with?
Stockport.
Stockport had lost that day. We were 5:15 kickoff.
Didn't they?
So the door was open, and we beat them 2-1, and I scored a pen. And so they hated us after that, but we kind of were in the change room being a bit loud and saying, like, it's kind of celebrating them. Not that they'd thrown it away, but like we kind of had dented their title charge.
Do you ever have those moments where it gets like a bit feisty on the field against opposition players? Is that something that's happened before for you?
Yeah, of course. Happens all the time. All the time. Josh Casey's like my friend, king of shit talk, basically. He just chats rubbish and winds people up. But yeah, it's part of the game. I think at this level, as we said earlier, like, because we're all not part-time, but we're all kind of grounded. We're not on millions and millions. Like, you just shake your hand after and you go home and you're sweet next time you play them. Like, it's all said and done, really.
Who for you then this season do you feel's going to win this division and get promoted?
Well, I thought Chesterfield, because every time I play against them, they play similar to Wealdstone, so they keep the ball. Paul Cook's an exceptional manager, I think. And I think Cole Cluss, like, the best player in the division. I think he's outstanding. Obviously, they got him from Altrincham. But obviously, they've made a bit of an indifferent start. I still think they'll be strong. And apart from that, those were my favourites. Apart from that, I think the door's wide open for anyone. Obviously, you've seen Barnet have a good start. They lost a couple recently, but Solihull has started well. Woking will be up there. There's a big... After that, I think... And even when I'm saying Chesterfield will win it, they might not. They're my favourites, but I just think there's a huge door open for anyone who wants to like throw 30, 35 games in a row and go for it.
Of course, there's Oldham as well, but they've had a difficult start to the season, haven't they? Do you see them coming good?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen who they've signed, but when we played them, I wasn't too impressed. Obviously, they changed their manager. When we played them at home, we drew 2-2. I think we should have won when... is it Unsworth, their manager?
Yeah, that's the current manager, yeah.
Yeah, so he was the manager when we played them a second time. Yeah, I'm not too sure. They've got very, very good players. They just need to probably work out a few kinks, work out a few kind of the way they want to play. And listen, they've spent a lot of money. Money normally talks. Normally a league table sorted by finances, as you see in the Premier League. So yeah, like I said, you could chuck an Oldham, a Solihull, a Woking, Barnet, Boreham Wood are always there. It's very tough to beat, always in the playoff picture. So there'll be lots of teams, I'm sure, licking their lips.
So what's the best stadium then that you've been to? Well, maybe one that maybe not the stadium as such, but the away day when you go into that place, it's like, yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. Maybe because you're used to the pitch. Maybe it's because there'll be a good atmosphere at a game. Is there any away day that you look forward to as a player?
Fratton Park. When I played at Portsmouth away a few times, wicked. Like,
is it?
We played one game where the game was abandoned after 30 minutes. It was just pouring with rain and the ball wasn't rolling, and I was on the bench for that. So then we replayed that game. We went 1-0 up, silent, and then they went bang, bang, and that big one stand to the left opposite the away fans was just rocking. The guys ringing the bell, people are smashing like the advertising boardings, and then I come on and I got an assist from a corner. We scored last minute 2-2. And I've been back there a couple of times as well. But that atmosphere-wise, put the Wrexham one in there. But Portsmouth, I think there was about 18,000 there. And they're in League Two. They were in League Two at the time. And they were obviously gone Prem all the way down. So well supported, even though they was in League Two. And they still not managed to get back up to the top of the pyramid.
So, of course, you play under Stuart Maynard at the moment. I'm going to ask you, it's a bit of a difficult question. If, let's say, Stuart Maynard wasn't your manager in this division, which manager would it be? Be like, he's the sort of manager that I'd want.
Oh, God, Luke. I'll tell you managers I admire in this division. Not that I'd want to play for them, but I'll just tell you. As I said, Paul Cook was the Portsmouth manager before. Was the manager when I scored that penalty when he was the Chesterfield manager before. Love the way he plays and just think he's been ahead of the curve for quite a while, as in because he used to play out from the back, dominate possession 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I like Parkinson at Altrincham. I like the way they play. I think he's a very good manager. I obviously like Darren Saul in a completely different way because without the ball, having worked with Darren, I was finishing off my B license. I had to go and do like an interview or like I had to produce my philosophy for how I want to play football as a coach. So when I was doing it, I was thinking, yeah, okay, I'll think about all the things I want to do on the ball, all the things I want to do with the ball. We're going to play this formation. We're going to play out like this. But as soon as I had a few months under Darren, I was like, I know exactly what I want to do without the ball. And I'm more passionate about that. I want to win it high. I want to win it back quickly and I want to be full of energy. So he kind of opened my eyes completely. One, to match analysis and things like that. And two, winning the ball back and either like stopping it high up the pitch or getting behind the ball and, making it hard for teams. Neither one's right or wrong, but he kind of, helped me with that.
So finally then, of course, you found this kind of passion for media, I believe, and with your YouTube channel. Is that something that you're wanting to take off this YouTube channel and then in the future hoping to get more opportunities as well within media?
Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, to make thousands, millions, whatever, there's a few YouTubers do it. Like, that's obviously a far-fetched dream. I'd love to have this channel with thousands of followers. I'd love to go to games and do vlogs. I'd love to give my opinion on BT Sport or be interviewed, things like this. But realistically, it's going to be about just showing I've created a platform, either video, radio, content, whatever it is, and then maybe getting employed after I finish football in that kind of capacity. Whether that will happen, I don't know. I still got the door open to coaching, as we said earlier. So, but to have both things and to be qualified and have, let's say, a CV, here's what I've done. I've done this YouTube channel. I've made content about this. I'm kind of good in front of a microphone. What do you think? Am I employable? That could be something, if you know what I'm saying.